I'm going to show you around my Zone 6B vegetable garden. It is really hot here in Missouri. It is the end of June, June 25th, and we've been under a heat advisory for many days now, well into the mid to high 90s. This front raised bed is where I have most of my plants that need a lot of sunlight, and that's because this is where I get the most sun. My other containers and raised beds are in the back of my property, which is a lot more shaded. So up here I have some larger varieties of my tomatoes. I have a poblano pepper. My plants are looking really great. They actually are looking better than I've ever had them look in my 7 years of gardening. I'm trying a different fertilizer this year. I think that is probably mainly why. That's really the only difference. These tomatoes just have so many flowers, and honestly, usually this time of year, they are not this far along. Got some tomatoes forming down there. So I'm really pleased with how these are looking. My poblano pepper plant also has a lot of flowers. I haven't seen any peppers forming yet. I have gone through and trimmed up these plants. This year I am letting my suckers stay on. That is actually new this year. I usually cut them off, so that might also be why I have so many more flowers, but I'm giving that a try. Over my 7 years of gardening, I've always taken them off, and so we'll see this year how it goes with leaving those on. And then over here I have some plants that I planted a little more recently, which is why they're smaller. This top section I didn't harvest until a couple of weeks ago. I had some cabbage growing that was just taking a little longer. So these were all planted later than that lower tier. So I have a pepper plant, got some flowers on that, got some small tomatoes, and then an eggplant. And then here on the trellis, I'm growing pole beans, and then I have some pickled cucumber varieties growing in there. Back here, I have these two taller containers, and this year we actually put in this trellis. I'm always trying to add vertical gardening. I have a pretty small space to garden in here in my urban neighborhood. So over here I have mostly herbs. I really like growing herbs in these containers because it is right near my back kitchen door. So I like coming out here, just snipping off some herbs. I have some sage, rosemary, and parsley. I've been growing this since early spring. And then on this trellis in the spring, I had peas. Right now, I have some cucumbers, pickled cucumbers growing. It's middle of the afternoon, so they're looking a little sad, but they'll perk up once it cools down. I also have some pole beans. These cucumbers are taking a while. I planted them, let's say on the 8th. And like I said, it's now the end of June, so growing a little slow, but just learning to be patient. And then over here, I do have some more pole beans growing up. And I have a couple little cucumbers that I planted more recently in there. In this container, I have rosemary, oregano, and my dill, which is looking great. Love using this in different summer dishes. In this first container, I have a few different summer squash varieties. I've been really diligent about checking for the vine borer eggs and had to scrape a lot of those off. I check every day or every other day. So those are looking good so far. Hopefully I'm able to harvest some zucchini this year. And then this is my Swiss chard. This has actually been here since spring. So this is my leafy green that I plant in the spring, and then it lasts me all throughout the summer, unlike my lettuce and spinach, which bolts when it gets a little hotter. I have some basil here. I love just adding herbs in my containers where I have a little extra space. Same with those green onions, anywhere I can add those in. And then on this back trellis, I have my pole beans growing. These are also kind of taken a while. They're growing really well, but they have not started flowering. There's a lot of flower buds, but no flowers yet. So hopefully we'll start seeing those soon and we'll be harvesting some beans. Here I have a couple of cherry tomato varieties. Had a bit of an aphid problem on these the last few weeks, but they're looking better. I found some ladybugs in the garden and moved them over here, and then I also used some Castile soap. I do have some little tomatoes starting to grow on these. So that's exciting. I do the cherry tomato varieties in my containers just because I find that those grow better in the smaller space and I do have less sunlight back here. And then over in this container, I actually recently harvested some carrots from right here. So I planted these bush beans actually not too long ago, about a week ago. As you can see, they're doing pretty well. I have my sorrel growing. This is an herb. I like to put it in salads. That's been there since the spring. It's pretty slow growing. This is a patio variety of eggplant. So I've got some flowers. I had a flower that didn't pollinate and fell off, so hopefully these other ones will do a little better. Again, another cherry tomato variety in here. I've got quite a few tomatoes that are forming, so that's really exciting. Over on this side, I have a regular variety of basil, and then I have Thai basil and again some green onions. Have some summer squash growing here. It's looking good. I'm a little worried about the vine borer in this one, but we will see what happens. Got my Swiss chard there. As you can see, I love growing Swiss chard. I have a lot of it. I did just pull a summer squash out of here because of the vine borer, so I planted a new seed. If it germinates soon, I should have enough time to get a harvest out of it before the end of summer. Back here, this is one of my more shaded areas of the back deck, so this is where I'm growing pretty much just leafy greens. Again, I have a lot of Swiss chard back here, and then I also have some different varieties of kale. I am still dealing with the cabbage moth, so that's something that I'm having to check pretty frequently for those eggs and caterpillars. I have some railing containers as well, and this is mostly where I just grow herbs. So I have some parsley, and then thyme, oregano, and more parsley. In this one I have mint, oregano, and more thyme. And then down here I have more greens. So again, Swiss chard, kale, parsley, and thyme. This is the last area of my garden. So these are some raised beds down below. I have a concrete patio down here, and these do not get a lot of sunlight, so it's always kind of hit or miss. I don't have too much hope with these, but I do have a pepper plant, I have eggplant, a cherry tomato, my Thai basil is doing really well. I've got parsley, savory, sorrel, and then these are actually left over from the spring. I'm growing celery. I had some in the front bed that did really well. Back here it's just more shaded, but there is some celery stalks that are growing on there. Thanks for letting me show you around. I hope you're having a great growing season as well.